The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin.
Hey, this is Dag, and you're listening to Beyond Trek Podcast.
Yeah, we don't cut our shows.
Right. Yeah, if there's...
Raw and uncut.
Raw.
It's the way to do it.
We'll do it live.
We test our code in production.
Uh-huh.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Red alert. I plan on hooking it up again once I get all this situation cleared out.
Going through a little bit of a mess there.
Well, we just bought a house and we spent like a month and we just moved in. So my office is less than optimal. But I had signed up to do a Secret Invasion podcast with Welcome to Geektown and had to have everything up and running like 3 days after we moved in. So I've got my Yeti here, fuzzy bits. So that's all. That's ready to go. But yeah, I haven't got my interface built in and my stuff out.
It'll get there, right?
I have my nice Yeti arm.
Yeah.
I have that too. Yeah, the Yeti
That'll
arm.
get mounted up eventually.
Now, Jeff, I like you have this the soundproofing on the walls. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to do that, but man, is it expensive.
So I got these on Amazon a long time ago, and I got them not for because like with the SM7, it's fine. I don't really need it.
Right.
A long time ago, I used to do voice work, and so I've got this AKG C414 condenser mic that I do with the voice work stuff, or I did the voice work stuff for, and so I needed it for that because that was super live, but it wasn't much. I mean, it's not super high quality, but I have too much of it up, so it works. What sucked was installing it.
I bet, because those are like 1 foot by 1 foot squares.
They're pretty good size. I'd say it's 2x3.
About 2x3. Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't too bad, but they tell you to glue it. Yeah. So I got some of that aerosol spray glue, and after I got off my super high, I was like, this doesn't work at all. So I ended up getting those T push pins that you use, and so I put those in, and it works fine. But I dread the day that we move or whatever, or I change the setup and I'm just have all these pinprick holes in the wall.
You're going to have to sell the house with a podcast room.
Exactly. It's like
this stuff comes with it. Either you have the soundproofing or you can have this weird stuff on the walls. And now if it were me, and let's say I were looking at buying a house, a ready to go podcast room would pretty much be the done. Yeah. Done. We're going to do this. So Dag, meet Jeff. Jeff, meet Dag.
Dag, good to meet you.
He is part of the... you're muted, Dag. That's the other thing we do is we talk.
As is tradition. No, we're friends on Twitter, Jeff.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So
yeah, we are, aren't we?
We are.
Look at that.
You might recognize me without my cup, but yes.
That's so cool. Awesome. I love... we live in a small Star Trek world, right?
We do. Yeah. Dag, I want to give you a little background. So the Jeffs are like the Xindi. There are 5 species of us. There's Jeff, who we're talking to here, Jefferson, who's me. We have the Jeffrey variant, and then we also have the Jeffs that go by the G. So the JEFFs and the JEFFERSONs are like the leaders. They're the ones that pretty much run the organization and usually agree on everything. The Jeffries, they just, the JEFFREYs, they more or less just go with whatever, go with the flow, whatever the majority is doing. Yeah, they're on board. Now, the GEOs, Jeffs and Jeffries, those guys can piss off. I mean, it's like we're going to put you over here on the side, just listen and follow. They're usually the persnickety ones. We're not so sure about the Jeffs. They're the G Jeffs. They're like the
Geoffs.
The Geoffs. They're like the Xindi insectoids and reptiles, kind of. Yeah.
So when you guys need entertainment, do you watch the Jeffries tube?
Oh,
we just call it a tube.
We have to distinguish it. We don't want any non-Jeffs watching.
Seriously.
Yes.
Jeffries tube.
I like that, Jeffries too. Dag always has it. He is always right on it with that stuff. Yes. Quick wit.
Yeah, we on my Babylon 5 Discord, they have evil. My co-host name is Brent, and so they have evil Jeff and evil or mirror. They say evil Jeff, evil Brent. We call ourselves Mirror Jeff and Mirror Brent. That gets us in trouble with that crew, but they spell my name with the G. G off is evil Jeff.
Okay.
So like there was a reaction video I did where I was just like, yeah, like I was all excited, like I did this. They took that, and then there's this image in Babylon 5. They actually kill a lot of kids, like children, and really like.
I've seen all of Babylon 5, and I'm trying.
So there's Believers in season 1 where there's the little kid that the egg people.
Yeah.
This one was Confessions and Lamentations where they basically had COVID, on the ship and put all the Marcab into the place, and then the little girl died. And so they showed that little girl right before she died, and then they put that over me being like, yeah, and they're like, Geoff loves Confessions and Lamentations.
You're one of the Geos.
Yeah,
the Geoff.
Yeah.
We did back in the beginning, Beyond Trek Pod did an Evil Dag thing where I was
I forgot about Evil Dag, Mirror Dag. Yes.
I was taking fan favorite episodes and just completely trashing them.
Oh, dude.
Like if you've seen The Inner Light, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We did one where we published that episode. It was a 20-minute just complete evisceration of that episode, and we called it The Inner Gaslight.
We need to bring back Mirror Dag. I miss Mirror Dag. I totally forgot about Mirror Dag.
No, the older I get, the more he just becomes me.
There's no longer a difference.
There I was. Yeah, we actually did that as so there's a beloved Babylon 5 episode called In the Shadow of Zahadum, where like a lot of the big plot stuff comes out. And so we did a fake reaction video with both of us where we were just like, what kind of fucking garbage is that? Like, what?
Yeah.
And like we tried to go so over the top that it would be obvious, but it was not. And people lost their minds. We probably lost, I think we had the end of the story is we had a net gain of like 200 subscribers and a couple paid, like it totally paid off. But we had 100 people immediately unsubscribe, like 20 people end their pay. Like they were just like, we're out. Like,
really?
You touched our sacred cow and we can't believe it.
Oh.
So we ended up doing a YouTube live. Like we went on and we're just like, 1, hey, sorry, I didn't mean to touch your sacred cow. 2, chill out. It's a 30-year-old TV show. Come on, man. Like
you're gonna say that to the B5 fans, knowing full well that the Trekkers, we do that as well.
Yeah, totally.
I think any franchise is really protected over very much. And by the way, I forgot to say, Jeff, that you were with the Starfleet Leadership Academy.
Perfect.
And we had talked about, I seem to remember, and Dag, you'll have to tell me if I'm right or not, but we talked about Starfleet Leadership Academy at one point. It seemed like it was, I'm not sure how long ago. It felt like it was maybe, hell, it could be a year or two now.
We did we connected on the Audrey thing when it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And I think then COVID happened and the wheels just kind of fell off, or we lost. I don't know. I remember that now. Yes, it was on Audrey. We were talking, and then I don't know what happened. It's like we. Yeah. It's like we'll get back with you. We'll set something up. We'll do something, and then COVID hit, and it was just gone.
Yeah, stuff got weird. Yeah,
so I'm glad you reached back out.
Yeah, no, I have a couple of people on the team. Like I actually have employees for Starfleet Leadership Academy.
Okay.
The podcast itself doesn't make a lot of money, but I started selling consulting and coaching from it because, like, I talk about management and stuff. But so I have enough money that I have one full-time person that helps. She does my social media and then outreach. And she was the one. She was just like I should start reaching out to other Trek and do the guest thing. I'm like, yeah, do that. Let's do that. And then when you guys popped up, I'm like, oh my God, we did that. Like, I remember you. Came all the way around. But it is hard because I know, like, you just get in your stuff, you know, and you're just like,
you really do. Once you get into that routine, you just get that tunnel vision. And right now, I've recently just been expanding on Facebook, trying to get some more, mostly mutual friends that are coming up that are Star Trek fans, because I figure you really want to try to broaden your base, you know, and really be able to have that contact with other Star Trek fans. And there have been a couple that I've gotten in contact with that would be great guests on our show. Not the actors, but the people that are in that orbit around Star Trek that would be really great guests. And so it's like, okay, I've got to have talked to them about it. And it's just that, all right, I've got to follow up with you. And, you know, I've got to do the schedule. I wish I had a scheduler. Like, it would be great to just get that email and be like, all right, Big J, you've got an interview with so-and-so this day and time. But yeah, so I have to write things down, put it in my calendar. And I guess it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have where you've got people you can talk to on the podcast, just to kind of, we do episode reviews. We did a whole lot more than what we're doing now. Just real life and schedules makes it really hard to do a week to week thing. But I always like it when we have different stuff, like actual interviews with people, with another person, with however they're involved with Star Trek. So with tell us some more about your leadership thing. So do you do traveling, I guess, around the country doing management type talks? What's what I'm looking for when you do like a leadership type of, what is that?
I do training
seminars.
Okay. Talks. So like I have a regular for real life full-time job for two reasons. Like one, because health insurance is ridiculous and so it's nice to have that. And then secondly, like one of the biggest problems in management and leadership consulting is it's all a bunch of like college grads who've never done anything that are just stuffy white dudes with ties and the whole like, you know, I mean, that's everybody, you know, every book you see is some version of that. And so I still have a job as a manager because like it makes me like I'm navigating one of the programs I manage. We're doing a return to office. I have another one that we're not, but I have one that we are because of work. And so like I can actually help people navigate that stuff. But on top of that, I'll go do talks, trainings, seminars. I do one-on-one or small group coaching, virtually or in person. And not a lot of it because, you know, I got two podcasts. I got a full-time job. I got a family. So you're busy. Very, very busy. In fact, I'm even taking August off. I've got my episode just came out. I watched Vortex, Deep Space Nine. You probably don't remember it because it's a garbage episode.
Oh, no. The ones people don't remember is like Meridian.
Yep. Meridian's one I did also.
I had that one. I had completely compartmentalized and forgot about that one. But then like now I have to start over.
So all right back. It's kind
of like watching one of those eyeball surgery videos. Yes. I don't do eyes. I don't do eyeballs. Mm-mm.
My wife got LASIK a long time ago, and they put you as the driver in this other room, and they tell you, hey, if you want to watch, here's this big screen TV of the camera that they're using for doing the thing. And like a moron, I was like, I'm going to live tweet.
Oh God!
Music from here, and there's still images in here that like I'll never get rid of. That I just wake up screaming.
Why did you do that?
Because I'm an idiot. It's like, oh, this will be fun. This will be something people look at. But I started the podcast because of that exact reason. At work, we had hired some consultants, and I was so pissed that like you yahoos go to college, don't get a real job, and then you're going to come in here and tell me how to like work with people, and so I was frustrated. And I wanted to tell people about it. But I didn't have a platform, you know, I didn't have a launch. And so like, I was like, I'll talk about leadership. And I looked at the Apple podcast and I'm like, dude, Tony Robbins has a podcast.
Right.
They're good. I'm out. They don't need me. Star Trek. I'll talk about Star Trek. That's cool. Oh my God, there's a million of these things. They don't need another one. You know, like they're good.
You're right.
And so I gave up. I just like, well, maybe that's not for me until I was in a meeting that, we already decided all this stuff. We're talking about it again. And I was like, damn it, I want meetings like Captain Kirk has meetings. I want those. And that's when my light bulb went off. And so this was all born. What I do is I watch an episode of Star Trek, and I have this big spreadsheet with a random like macro thing. So I click the button and boop, spits out what episode I'm watching next. And I watch it, and I pull out leadership and management lessons, and I teach those in the podcast. So I do like here's a recap of the episode. Here's like either some trivia or my thoughts on the episode. And that's about up to half of the time. Up to the rest is like in Vortex. It was like, let's talk about setting clear expectations, and what that looks like. Cisco said this thing to Croden, and it was amazing and great. Imagine at work if your boss actually laid this stuff out for you, and here's how you do that. So my goal in each episode is for people to walk away with one or two little nuggets that make them a better leader. And then from that, like try and get that niche of, hey, you want to learn more about leadership or management in a way that's not just some stuffy dude telling you stuff. Like I have a client in London. They haven't flown me out. I do it on Zoom. And that's really
tell them you want to fly out to London.
Yeah. I keep telling them like, you have no idea what you're missing out on. Like whole different experience.
Yeah.
But their whole thing is Harry Potter. They love Harry Potter. So I put leadership lessons in that context, so I'm like, hey, you can be a Dolores Umbridge. How would she do this? Or how would Professor McGonagall take this thing? And so you put it in that story context with characters, people get it. It makes sense to them. And it's been stupid amounts of fun to do it.
Dolores Umbridge, she can just fuck right off too.
Seriously. Yeah. It's literally the worst.
Hated her. I had these visions that if I were in high school and had a teacher like that, she would have been drop kicked, something, or like an RKO right on the desk, something.
RKO out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, what you said a little bit earlier was the same kind of thing that we went through in trying to create a podcast. Is you come up with this idea, this thing you want to do, and you start doing some research on it. One of the big things is the name. What are you going to call it? What will your topic be? What will it be about? And how sustainable is that? Is it something that once you have 2 episodes, like you've talked about all of it, you're done, you've painted that corner. But you see that, for example, I Googled Star Trek podcasts one day. I just wanted to get a sense of how futile it is to have another one. And there's like 200 Star Trek podcasts out there, and
that are active.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like, oh man, there's so many, and we're all going for the same small piece of pie that is for this franchise. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of podcast fatigue, really, which you've probably seen as well, because the big names could just wake up one morning and say, I want to do a podcast. Instantly, 100,000 subscribers, viewers off the charts, all of that stuff, where you and I could podcast for 5 years and maybe have 200 subscribers on a particular channel. And it's just that uphill thing. But what you do, and it sounds like what you did, is you have to sit down and say, okay, there are 11 million podcasts that are about the same kind of topic, but what do we do? What can I do that sort of sets mine apart and makes it where this is how I do my thing, and I'll have that core audience of people, and you get the repeat listeners and viewers because they like what you do, or they like how you do things, or they like how you sound, whatever it is, or they really like how handsome Dag is and that manly beard, that bulletproof beard. I mean, really, if I could grow a beard like that, I'd be slaying the women. Slaying.
Right.
Yeah. Just locking it down. But, the best I can do is the Captain Cisco goatee.
Yeah, which isn't bad. It's powerful. It's a strong goatee you got.
It's there. You see it. It arrives first in the room. You see it coming in. But that is, and I commend you for being able to do that. You didn't look at the big name people that are already doing the kind of topic you're doing and say, well, it's already being done, is being done by somebody that everyone knows. So, kind of give up and quit there. So tell me, how challenging was it to come up with your own, here's how I'm going to do my thing? Was it something that just developed naturally, or did it take some time? Like, for example, with us, with Beyond Trek Podcast, if you look at about our first year, is very different than where we're at and what we do now. There was kind of a big shift.
Yeah.
Did you experience the same thing?
I really did. I got into podcasting slow. I had the idea. So I had the idea in 2018 is when I was first like, I should, I'm going to do this thing. It's what Starfleet Leadership Academy is going to look like. And then I decided I wanted to learn how to podcast, like what are the mechanics of it all? And I probably recorded my first episode 3 times before I kind of landed on, okay, I kind of like this format. And then immediately after that one, when I did the second, so I decided to start with the pilots for, at the time, Discovery was coming. We didn't know what it was going to be, but it was all old Trek, at that point. There was a lid on what we were doing. So I was like, I'll just do that. And so I started with the pilots, did Caretaker first because I love Voyager. And then I did Encounter at Farpoint because that takes some stamina to get through. And, but even from 1 to 2 for me, big change. Like I recorded, I'm just like, hey, this didn't work. So I need to do it this way. And then 2 to 3 was a big change. I was looking back a little bit ago, not literally listening to it because I can't go back and listen to my first episode. I just can't do it.
Can't sit through your old stuff.
No, but I'd say around like episode 20, 22, right in there. I'm like, okay, I kind of landed on my flow on how things are going to work. And then it's even refined even more. I read a book called Make Noise by Eric Newsom. He's a big NPR podcaster and worked in other places. I recommend it to anybody who podcasts, but he really breaks down how to build those big, massive network shows in a way that's successful. And a lot of that helped me refine my format, so like for me, I don't like a big, long intro into a podcast. I'm like, so like if I'm going to listen to a group of people talking, let's do the get to know you stuff and, your chatter and stuff. That's cool. But if I'm listening to like, I want to learn about this leadership thing or whatever, I'm like, tell me who you are and get to the meat.
Yes.
So what I was doing is I'd be like, welcome to the Starfleet Leadership Academy. We're going to be talking about setting clear expectations on deep space, watching Deep Space Nine's Vortex. Boom, right into it.
Yes.
But reading that book, I realized if you don't know who I am, what I'm doing, the point of the podcast, I've already lost you. You hear that and you're like, I don't understand this at all. So, learned more about like how to intro the piece, how to kind of tease what the meat of the whole thing, kind of hook the person up front and then dive into the content. And then even with the content, like I said, I have like 4 sections, the intro, then I do the episode recap, thoughts and trivia or whatever on the episode. And then the bulk of it is the lesson. But even that format kind of evolved over time. Cause like in my first couple episodes, I would just talk about the episode and then go off on a tangent on this leadership thing. But I found out I've got not a good chunk of the audience, but enough of a chunk of the audience that actually doesn't like Star Trek or they're not too into Star Trek. So they'd skip the episode recap. And at first I was like, this is a brilliant recap, man. This is hot. I put work into this bad boy.
This is hot.
But then you go back to, why am I doing the podcast? What's the point? Right. And is the point for me to be a recap show, because there are so many, the point is for me to help people learn leadership lessons. So cool. Skip ahead, skip halfway through. You're going to get to what I call the command codes section. And in command codes, we break this stuff down. So it took me quite a while, about a year, because I release every other week. So, better part of a year to really kind of get my groove. And even now, gosh, I'm approaching episode 90. So I don't know how many years that is. 3, 4. I don't know. I don't do math. I do leadership. I work with people that do math, but like I'm still fine tuning things all the time.
So Dag, got a question for you. Because we started Saturday, June 29th, 2019. No, wait a minute. On a Saturday? That's not right. Because I specifically remember we started talking about Beyond Trek on a weekday. Well, it doesn't matter. It's, So Dag, since 2019, how long would you say we went flubbing intros before we just said, you know what, forget it. We're not going to do intros anymore?
I don't know, like 5 months.
That was it? I thought we beat that horse longer than
when our number 3 left and we got a new number 3, and then we just kind of found a really good groove. And then our number 4 joined, and for like 2 years we were just on it.
Yes, you're right. I don't know.
And then the panini ended, and people went back to work, and like social life's opened up again. So then we kind of slowed down.
Trekkies don't need social life. What?
Yeah. Social? What?
You had a social life? What is this?
Those are my command codes, Jay.
That's fair. You don't have clearance.
I don't. Yeah. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah. Jay has subordinates that need constant maintenance. That's what Jay has.
Yes. Oh, let me just tell you. So if you're my youngest kids, they tell me, Daddy, why is part of your beard white? And I said, I'm pointing. Right. You look in the mirror. That's why. And I love them, love the kids to death. But I tell you, it's not easy. And there's a lot of leadership there. Mm-hmm. I think that you have to have as a parent, and what kind of example are you going to set for them? And it's one of those things where I'm sure there are parenting podcasts out there, but I already know better, right?
Yeah.
So did you ever find any resistance to your work because people kind of have that assumption that, oh, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm already a good manager or good leader?
Big time. I think the two biggest resistances I get are that, because I think, and I know this working, because I'm still working in the industry, and one of the things we really encourage. So like in my company, we have a formal mentorship program, and it's a thing oh my gosh, that's a hill I will die on, get yourself a mentor, find a coach when you have, weird things going on or a new project or a new task. Like, it's so important. But there are people who people I know well and who I think are smart people, and they're just like, I don't need a mentor. I don't know this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, yes, you do. And so I run into that sometimes. It's just like, what do you have? What do you got? The other thing I run into is the one that you kind of, as Star Trek fans, Trekkies, Trekkers, we run into this a lot where I'm like, oh, I'm a leadership guy. Oh, and Star Trek. Yeah. So they don't take it serious, and so like I've got a full tattoo sleeve.
Nice. Yes,
of all the ships and got the Delta, like all the way, got a whole thing.
That's commitment.
Yeah, seriously. I try to keep my fandom on the down low. I just really keep it quiet. But I'll end up in meetings or whatever, and like I've got the captain's braid, right on the wrist. So if I'm wearing a suit, which I try to never do, but if I'm wearing a suit and it comes out, there's always the question at some point, oh, you got some ink. What's that? I'm like, oh, well, let me show you. And there are times like it's the best barometer in the world, because in the room you can watch people be like, oh, nerd. Okay, that good for you. Yeah, thanks. Or people are just like, we need to talk. Oh my gosh. And the minute that happens for me, I'm like, one, cool, let's have this conversation. Secondly, I'm just like, let me separate you from some of your money and let's have a longer term relationship where I can really get into your stuff. You help each other out, kind of a thing.
The math will say that any room you're sitting in, that there will be a closet Star Trek fan in there somewhere. And
100%.
Talking about, what your tattoos made me think of when you were talking about about them. So, I can't remember what kind of dog it is, but the big muscle dog meme and the little dog kind of thing. So the big dog is, I have ink, I've got tattoos. And the little dog is of Star Trek.
I got both. It's so funny. My partner, she doesn't have any tattoos, and she's tempted, and even after seeing me go through the process for the sleeve, it's like 23 hours.
Oh my God.
Share time. Yeah. Broken up over weeks, but it's a lot of time. And the healing and everything. She's still like, yeah, I think I might want one. And I'm like, no, you understand. Nowadays, not having a tattoo is the old days having a tattoo. Like, you're the rebel because you have no ink. Like,
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right. It has become more normal. Like, for example, when you're watching any kind of music video from a rock band, these guys on stage or whatever, if you don't see a tattoo on somebody, it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
It looks strange. And even I've been thinking, you know what? I should get a tattoo because I feel like I'm out of place.
Yeah. I want to fit in.
Yeah. I want to fit in. Now I need one.
This is why when I go to Renaissance fairs, I dress up in my standard, kilted barbarian, but I have Chakotay's tattoo as war paint. And there's always somebody who makes eye contact with you and nods to get it.
You get the nod.
It's a good conversation. Exactly.
Like, I see you.
Don't give me that sarcastic Vulcan salute.
We are here. We see each other.
Yeah. It is a wild thing about the fandom, though. The way we find those little connections or just little things. I know I was working with a group out of New Jersey, a small group of executive leaders for a pretty good sized company. And the head of this group, fan of the podcast, really into Star Trek. In fact, when he called me and wanted to talk about hiring me to help his team out, we did a pre-call and he's like, don't bring up Star Trek. Yeah. He's like, I do it all the time and they eat my lunch. Like, I'll be like, I'll say, blah, blah. Like, what, you wanted to do it 47 times? Ha ha ha. And so
that's a great reference. That's what I was saying to the guy.
It means he's doing his work, he's making sure they all know, which is good. But, so, which I always appreciate, I told him, I said, I'm better if I can bring it, but I'll work with you here.
Yeah.
Well, it was a 2-day session and we got to the end of the 2 days and I always have time, for just space. And one of the guys just pops on. He's like, I hate Star Trek. I hate working for this guy who loves Star Trek. I hate everything about it. I know who you are. I know what you do. I looked you up. Thank you for not bringing Star Trek. But after working with you for 2 days, I might check it out.
Oh, wow.
And literally, I'm just like, hey, you know what? I don't even care if I made you a better leader. I just brought somebody to Star Trek.
Yep, you sure
it's
did.
like, this is good.
You are now one of us.
Yeah. And I think, for me, I get tied up in this leadership thing so much because it's not just management. There's all these, the 46 rules of this or the 39 pillars of whatever that tell people how to be a manager. And dude, I don't have time for that. You know what I want? I want to know why I got to get better. And what I know about Star Trek is it shows us that we can be better. I think that's a thing I love about the show and was always drawn me to it is it's like, it's not perfect. It's not easy. It's not given to us, but there's a better world that we can strive for. And what I know is we're going to need different and better leadership to get there. I just want to be a part of helping that happen, kind of taking people in those positions and roles or people who want to be in those positions or roles and just nudge them in that direction so that when World War III happens,
and it will, let's just
hopefully later than sooner.
Prepare yourself. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah, let's just do it so the Vulcans can show up and we can start making this a better place.
That's what I was going to say is like, if World War III happens, every Trekkie, Trekker, Trek fan on the planet needs to have a secret agenda to get to Bozeman, Montana and just wait it out.
Exactly.
Wait for it all to blow over. Have a pint at the pub.
We got 40 years, count down less than 40 years to First Contact Day. So, let's grin and bear it and get through it. Yeah,
I always say like when the news comes out that the bombs are coming or they're going off, we head to Bozeman, but also, and this might be a deep cut for any video game fans out there, but start collecting your bottle caps.
Yeah.
As well, because that'll be the currency.
Fallout. Yeah.
Yep.
Bottle caps will be the currency, that's good currency. Honestly, whoever came up with that idea, it was pretty inventive, pretty creative.
Yeah.
Now, is there any particular, if you're going to relate any of the leadership stuff to your seminars, your podcast, is there any particular captain or captains that you talk about that really lend themselves to your work or to the subject you're talking about?
Literally a year ago, not even a year, even a couple of weeks ago, I had a different answer than I have now. My answer now is Captain Pike in Strange New Worlds.
Okay. Good pick. Yeah.
I tell you what, I've only done one episode on the show so far, just the pilot for it. The other ones haven't come up yet, but I was so angry. I was excited and angry when I watched the show to take notes and get ready for the podcast. Cause I'm like, just play everything he says. Just do that and you'll be a great leader.
I can't cut out anything. I can't edit this. I have to play all of it.
Yeah. Everything here is gold. Like, it's just so awesome. But he's still developing. We'll see where they go with him, and all that stuff. So I'm not ready to christen him like the one. My one, and I'm ready for the blowback. It's Captain Janeway.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
No blowback from me.
You got Kirk, Picard, Cisco. I mean, really?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, I'm surprised that Janeway is your choice of the captain to use as like your leadership template.
A big part of it for me is almost all the captains are great. Almost.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of thoughts on Archer, but his story is an arc, so we'll say that.
Yeah.
But they all have really great traits. What I love about Kirk, for example, Kirk, I think, is one of the finest managers of the captains. Zeitgeist has been really unkind and unfair to Kirk. The Kirk that pop culture knows is not the Kirk who is in Star Trek. Like, he doesn't do the thing like this.
He really doesn't. When I did my whole rewatch of TOS, there was maybe one time, maybe two, where there was a little bit of that, but that was something that we created, same as beam me up, Scotty. That's never been said in that order of words. The other thing was how Kirk always gets the girl. Again, only happened like twice, 2 or 3 times. And it is so unbelievable when you go back and watch this stuff and you compare it to the image of what we've created. Here's a big one. I'll give you. If you're a Batman fan, go back and watch the Batman show from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Adam West, in the years before he passed, it was like Adam West playing Bruce Wayne. He was depicted very differently than how he like voiced it and characterized it later. It's just kind of, okay, well, we built this image of Kirk, and it just went that way. And if you sit and watch TOS, watch all of it, that's not really how the character is. That's what we created.
Yeah. It's fascinating, really. And it's, you watch him, and yes, he's doing, Spock called it the cowboy diplomacy. He's the one out there doing the stuff. It's a 60s TV show. It's what you do, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's also so many scenes where he's like, hey, you do this, or I trust you to do this, or, run it. One of the things I loved about TOS is they would have whole like cold opens where they're just sitting on the bridge bored. Like, well, we've been scanning this thing for 6 days and we're just sitting around, and he's kind of lounging and doing stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, I love it because it's just a day at work, and then Kirk steps in and the management stuff he does is good. So, Kirk brings that to the table. Picard, geez, it's Picard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Diplomat extraordinaire, develops people, does all these great things. I think Picard has two big drawbacks that we don't talk about a lot. One is if you're in the inner circle of Picard, you're gold. You are untouchable and he will do anything for you. You're outside of that inner circle and, well, you work together and he might awkwardly know your name.
Correct. Yeah.
He's very much CEO.
Of course, Mr. Broccoli.
Right. Yes. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, there's 1,100 people or whatever on the Enterprise. I don't expect him to know everybody's name.
Right.
But he's just got that we call it a professional distance. And I'm putting an asterisk on that because I'm going to touch on it again with Janeway. But he doesn't actually connect with a lot of the people in his crew, and a good, strong leader will be able to create those connections with the people they work with. It's not a fatal flaw by any means, but it's just one of those things like, okay. The second thing that we don't ever talk about with Picard, he always had Starfleet Command or the Admiralty right there. He had someone always telling him what to do. Always checking his work. And yeah, he pushed back, right? You know, there was definite back and forth that happened, but it was almost never that it was, Picard, you're on your own. There's no anything. It's all up to you, which is where I juxtapose Janeway, who's a new captain, right? This is her first command as captain. And so she's kind of learning a lot of this stuff. I love the episode The Cloud in season 1 because it has this whole monologue and kind of theme throughout the episode where she's like, I'm going to be with these people for 70 years. How do I maintain a professional captain relationship with them, but also be a member of the crew and develop friendships? And it's kind of this theme they touch on, and she does not a great job, but a better job at creating those connections with the other members of her crew, except Tuvix. But that's a whole other thing. But the thing about Janeway,
don't go there. We can't go there. That's a whole different podcast episode.
But the whole thing with Janeway that I love so much, she had a choice. I'll call it the Equinox choice, where I can take the short route home. I can go and do things the easy way, or I can do things the way that the Federation, Starfleet would do it. Mostly, I can do it mostly the way that Starfleet would do it. She chose to adhere to the values of her organization that were also her values, and it made things harder for them. But she was doing it in a way that aligned with the organization, with her, and with a lot of the people she enrolled into the crew. And she had no Admiralty. She had no Starfleet Command. There was nothing forcing her to do that except for her own integrity and her own conscience. And I think that the fact that she was able to do that in the situation they were in, like, that is next level leadership.
I think when you talk about those couple examples with Janeway, it gets me thinking, if it were me, if I were Janeway and first opportunity to get home was either get home right now or destroy the caretaker array.
Yeah, and genocide the Ocampa. Like, yeah.
Right. And I asked myself, what would I have done? And it's kind of, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think a big part of me would lean towards, this, it's not my pig. My dog's not in this race. It's not my farm. I need to get my crew home. And as hard as that would be, that's a tough one. I would have to say that's a hell of a dilemma, and something that she decided within a minute or so.
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's just say, well, and then with the Equinox, that wasn't, there wasn't a possible genocide of an entire race. You only needed 10 of these things to jumpstart your warp core.
Yeah, it was a good chunk of them they needed, but yeah, they still had to go through and get them and kill them.
I think by that point, again, maybe I'm not that good of a leader, but I'm thinking of, I also have a responsibility to my crew. Yeah. And that's the thing is, from that very first decision to destroy the array, every single death on that ship is squarely right on my hands.
Yep.
My fault directly, not indirectly. It's all on me because I'm the one that decided to keep us here stranded in the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
That's a lot to carry. I think that's pretty tough to carry.
I think that's really speaks to the loneliness of leadership. I mean, really, because this is the episode of Tuvix, but I'm not going to put it in Tuvix. I'll just put it in this, but it's the trolley dilemma, right? And so the trolley dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you got a trolley coming down the thing and it's at a break in the tracks. And over here on this side, it's going to kill 5 people. Like if it's going, they're on the tracks and it's going to go. And if you leave it untouched, 5 people will die. Or you can throw a switch that changes the track and then 1 person will die. So is it better to do nothing and let 5 people die? Or is it better to make an intentional choice to change the parameters and choose to kill that 1 person? Like, what's the answer? And philosophers have debated this for countless years. And the answer is there is no right answer. It's really what can you carry and live with? And Voyager, I think, poses that question in a lot of really powerful ways, where like if we go back to Caretaker, I can literally be personally responsible for the extinction of a race that I don't know anything about, and but also we'll get to go home and it'll be good. I'll take care of my people. I'll maintain everything I needed to maintain. Or fast forward to Equinox, where I can choose to abduct and kill X amount of this fascinating creature, this life form that we don't know anything about, and get home. Or I can choose to limp our way back home, do the Starfleet thing and scan every nebula we come across, do all that work. And I mean, shoot, a boatload of people died. And every single thing that happened, every death, every impact to a society as they went through on her. Like she has to live with that her whole life either way, and so it really comes down to all of them are horrible options. All of them are great options. It's like, depending on what it is for her, she was able to tie it to what are my values and what are the values of the organization that we are all, except for this group over here, Maquis, who suddenly just decided it was cool to work together, which is one of the biggest flaws of that series. Like that should have been an entire season of them working their stuff out. Yeah. But most everybody else on the crew was like, we're Starfleet. Like we went through the academy. We took the oaths. We had the training. This is what we do. And so she chose to make that hard choice, but it aligned with the values of what they were trying to do.
And they kept coming up with more and more Maquis crew members that were somehow stuffed in Chakotay's little ship. Like, how many people were in that damn thing? Because through the course of just the first season, there were close to freaking 10 or 15 Maquis crew members. And that little ship was not that big. It looked like it was at best this maybe a little bigger than a runabout. Yeah. But okay, you're telling me what were these people doing? Were they all like sitting next to each other and each had a job? Were they in I don't know. It was ridiculous to me.
Jay.
Yeah.
You're worried about where the Maquis came from, and I'm worried about why, during all of these decision makings, was Janeway not clearly informed about the results of the loss of the short-term quarterly gains of mission extension? Like, was it really worth all that time? All you had to do was sacrifice a planet. You come home, and we don't have to worry about you. And the next 7 years of life here goes on just fine. But no.
What's the ROI on just going home?
Right. Yeah. Well, we can look to Prodigy. Oh, wait, never mind. No, we can't. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure we just had one listener turn us off.
Right.
It was Aaron Waltke.
Yeah, it's always a risk, right? To bring up any of the new Star Trek. There's always that who am I gonna? Yeah, but you know what? I enjoyed Prodigy. I thought it was a fun show.
The Tuvix thing, the trolley problem doesn't really make sense when you have transporter clone technology. Just clone Tuvix, and while the original one's in the buffer, we'll split that one back out, and then we'll beam Tuvix into space and watch him die.
Man, that
or at
is
least pretty brutal, pretty harsh. Yeah.
Yeah,
we could also just get him a regular uniform that doesn't have the orchids on it. Cause like I liked Tuvix. I couldn't stand that uniform. That was no.
It was a little loud.
Yeah.
And it clashed with everything.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing though. If they had done that, Tuvix and Neelix would have been fast friends. Tuvok would have avoided both of them anywhere he could be.
Yes. He would have totally avoided them.
Yep.
So, since you're a big Voyager fan, Jeff, I want to ask you if this was something that you noticed, and I didn't pick this up until my rewatch years later. But you know how Neelix is always calling Tuvok Mr. Vulcan?
Yeah.
So when I went and did